In this video, I really want to just talk about August bass fishing, and I guess you could say some trends that I've seen over the years in both the northern part of the country and in the southern part of the country that have worked for me, and we're not going to specifically talk about lures because I kind of already did a video over on BassFishingHQ about that, but I am going to talk about some techniques, some things that the bass seem to be doing this time of the year. Now, before we get into it, this video is brought to you by my apparel company, Fin Fishing, specifically the Fin Fishing Tri-Blend t-shirt. This is a product that I've had for over a year now, and I have the Fin shirts like this. I also have the American Bass t-shirts. Everyone that gets a hold of these says that they are the most comfortable t-shirt that they have ever worn. We all wear t-shirts, so whether you're out fishing or whether you are just relaxing at home, I have long sleeve versions as well. They're just a really nice t-shirt, and I'm gonna leave a link down below in the description. Shopping at Fin Fishing is truly the best way to help support this channel. All right, let's talk about August bass fishing. Now, August is definitely, August and September to me are two of the harder times of the year to catch fish, but they're not always the hardest time of the year to find fish, if that makes sense. And what I mean is that during August and September, one of the biggest things that you're gonna see is there is a lot of fish that are deep, and they're on offshore cover and offshore structure, whatever it may be. It could be cover like stumps and grass. It could be structure like, humps and flats, whatever it may be. A lot of times these fish are not that difficult to find because they're in a lot of really predictable areas. For me, I really like to focus if I'm fishing, lakes that have a main river going through them. A lot of times these fish are going to be relating to the main river channel. So if you have a point that goes out, drops off, into the main river, a hump that's out there on the main river, you will see a lot of times that these fish are right there. They are relating to the main river. A number of years ago, I was fishing a tournament in August in Virginia on a lake called Philpott Lake, and this was 100% what you had to do to catch fish there. You could fish all over in deep water, but if your particular structure piece of structure that you weren't fishing wasn't touching the main river channel, you were not going to catch a bass. But as soon as you found, a point, a hump, a ledge that hit the main river channel, it was like lights out. You could catch giant schools of fish. Now, the big thing though, when it comes to fishing this time of the year, we're gonna talk about a little bit of shallow water fishing in just a moment, but I wanna hit a little bit more on the deeper water stuff, is that the fish that are in deeper water have seen a lot at this point in the year. And they've seen a lot of our traditional lures. They've seen a lot of the lures that we all like to throw, your deep diving crankbaits, your football jigs, even spoons at times can be a lure that a lot of guys fish. Now with that being said, it's very important to understand that bass will be very specific on your lure choice this time of the year. In August and September, I really feel like your lure choice can mean everything. And it's going to be different depending on what school of fish that you may find out there in a little bit deeper water. And so the biggest thing that I can stress to you is really just throwing the kitchen sink at these fish, trying to figure out what these fish respond to, because you will maybe idle over a group of fish. You fish your traditional ways, your deep cranks, football jigs, spoons, and you may just all of a sudden pick up a drop shot and you catch one. Or you may pick up a spy bait. A spy bait's one of my favorite lures to use this time of the year, trying to keep it just above the fish, and all of a sudden you start catching them. So you just have to pay really close attention. And I highly suggest during this time of the year to throw those lures that you really think other guys may not be throwing. And sometimes that means that you have to throw something that's really small, and sometimes that actually means you have to throw something that is really big. I talked a little bit about spoons. This can be the time of the year where a really big spoon actually triggers fish that the fish will not be triggered on anything else. So just think about that when you're out there on the water. What is a bait in this area that these bass may have not seen? Because those are typically going to be the baits that the bass respond well to. Now, if you're fishing a lake that doesn't have a lot of pressure on it, you may be good to throw your kind of traditional lures, your crankbaits, your big swim baits, you know, everything that we've talked about already. You may be okay to throw those things and catch a lot of fish. The other thing that I think is really important during this time of the year when it comes to the deeper water fish is sound. I really truly believe that sound can make a humongous difference. And what I mean by that is baits, to me, that typically don't have as many rattles, as much sound, things that almost sneak up on the fish, I think can be very good in highly pressured situations in the month of August. So just pay really close attention to what maybe other anglers are around you could be fishing, and just try to think of something different. Like I said, sometimes really small. Actually fishing something like a Ned rig, which we don't always think about, you know, in big fish fisheries, can really produce, or going to the opposite end of the spectrum. Now, the other thing that I want to talk about, one of my probably more favorite things to do in the month of August is fish up shallow. Because during this time of the year, especially in lakes that have a lot of vegetation in them, you are going to find a lot of thicker vegetation, whatever it may be. It could be hydrilla, coontail, milfoil, lily pads, reeds. It could be a mixture. A lot of times it's a mixture of grasses. I just spent I spent 3 days up in New York, and what I did a lot was fished in shallow water. And the biggest thing that I tried to find was thick grass, whatever it may be. And a lot of times that is where I was catching the bigger bass. So in these situations, a lot of times I like to keep lure choice very simple. You know, if I'm fishing around vegetation, I'm gonna have a Texas rig like picked up, and it may be a lighter Texas rig to fish on outside grass lines. It may be a really heavy Texas rig to punch through matted vegetation. But I like to keep things simple when I'm fishing in shallow water. The other thing that is very important, probably the most important, and why thick cover is so good, is you want to find areas that have a lot of shade. Shade is everything when you get into August and September, because those months tend to be the hottest of the entire year. And so if you're going to find fish that are in shallow water, if you find shaded shallow water, it will be a degree, 2 degrees cooler than the rest of the lake, especially those areas that are getting a lot of sun. So shade becomes the #1 thing that I look for, and that is with vegetation or without vegetation. You know, I have fished lakes in the middle of summer in August where all you have to do is find a marina. Find a marina that has boat docks. They have those big shaded canopies over them, and that area produces so much shade, and there's so much, you know, water moving because boats are going in and out. It's oxygenated. That is where the fish will live. They will live in those marinas. And so sometimes sometimes when you're fishing a marina, it's really about finding that 1 or 2 slips that's holding a group of fish. So you may be skipping a jig, you may be throwing a spoon down there, Texas rig, a drop shot, whatever it may be. Sometimes you really just have to find that one slip, that one little area that is holding fish. So in that situation, it's really about just fishing and covering water. Fishing as many of those little slips that you can, and you will find little patterns within patterns. Not only is the pattern the marina docks, but you will find, man, all these fish are sitting in 22 foot of water on this dock, or they're sitting in 12 foot of water. If I hit 12 to 15 foot, that's where I'm catching fish. Or it might be deeper, or you might find that it's only marina docks that have a cable on the base of them, and that's where the fish are holding to. So always look for those patterns within patterns, but the big thing is simply finding shade. Now, it doesn't have to be a marina dock. It can be a shaded, you know, wood line. You know, this is part of the reason why small creeks that are attached to like main lakes can be so good during this time of the year, because when you have these small creeks, if you get way up inside of them, you're gonna have trees that are, you know, have their best foliage all year during this time of the year. So they're providing a ton of shade. That creek will hardly see sunshine because there's so much shade provided by all the trees. There's only a couple of hours throughout the day where you have direct sunlight to that water. And so those creeks will be several degrees cooler than the rest of the lake. And so you get up inside of these things, you'll see the cooler water, you see the bait fish, and you can start catching bass. And again, a lot of times it's keeping things simple. You know, top waters, Texas rigs. That's what I throw a lot of times in those areas until I kind of find a group of fish, and then I might experiment a little bit more. So anyways, guys, I just wanted to talk a little bit about August bass fishing, some things that I've seen that have worked really, really well for me. Hopefully they are things that will work well for you too. I will see you guys tomorrow.